hard for them to just think it's them here, shedding light on their badges and why they would have just come here wearing them so boldly if it really was Tison. When they were thinking about whether or not they should join forces with Tison, that man put on their emblem and arrived to attack them and asks if the timing isn't too perfect for a coincidence, which Zealand acknowledges, agreeing that it's bad. Someone who didn't want them to join forces with Tison attacked them and Tison went out of its way to save Chunu. The timing's too good and asks if this isn't what people call a self-made play, to which Cha answers that she's still thinking it over. But Zealand steps up, saying this isn't the time for them to do that and that they need justification, so she asks what her orders are, but Cha doesn't answer, so she angrily wonders whose orders they are supposed to follow, so Cha asks her to give him some time and asks if they should ask Mr. Wang, but Zealand says he isn't their boss and that she's going to take care of Tison her way if she doesn't give any orders. Yisu goes through the restaurant and finds a chipped, dull knife which he sees isn't one that people could use for combats or in military, but a normal one anyone can be expected to have. He looks inside the car and finds a 100 yuan note, wondering if it was a Chinese organization that attacked Tianxing, and why they would do so before getting on call with President Li, whom he asks if he's aware of the Chinese branch of Tianxing, who says they should ask Chunho about it since it's been around for a while, so Yisu says he can tell him about it later and wishes him luck for his business trip, who tells him to take care of himself before hanging up. A man lights up Yisu's cigarette and introduces himself as Wang Hao, the man who runs the currency exchange in this area, so Yisu introduces himself as Baek Dogyeong from Tison while noting that he walked across a floor covered in broken glass as if it was nothing and stops him from bowing since it makes him uncomfortable before offering him a cigarette nod, asking what he's here to do, explaining that he came to investigate a scene that someone orchestrated to make it look like it was done by Tison. The man explains that he's here to investigate the scene as well, and both start from different sides before he says that Yisu's changed Hi's cigarette, explaining that a lot of things pass through you in currency exchange and that Yisu was a heavy drinker of the Marlboro Red, so Yisu says his tastes changed and messages President Li, asking about Wang Hao. He then asks Yisu if he noticed that his lighters dried up, who replies that he must not have been paying attention before he tells him to then show him what he hid in his breast pocket and pounces on him from behind as Yisu turns around in alarm. Meanwhile, as President Li gets out of his car, he tells Chunho that Yisu was asking about someone named Wang Hao, hearing which a dark look suddenly passes in his eyes as he explains that he once worked in currency exchange, was an information dealer, and is bad news for people like them and Tison since he's of the Black Dragon Triad and took down the Southwest as well as Tison's leader. As Yisu and Wang Hao square off against each other, he remarks that he doesn't fight like a normal currency exchange manager, to which he asks if he really is Baek Dogyeong before he takes a small time out and receives the message from President Li telling him to avoid confrontation at all costs, so he relays it to Wang Hao, complimenting that his specs are quite monstrous before saying they should find out that the Black Dragon Triad is made of as the two rush at each other again. Wang Hao says that the truth is that it doesn't matter whether he is Baek Dogyeong or not, since from his experience, it's best not to trust someone who's got a lot to hide, hearing which Yisu replies that they can both agree on that. Wang Hao remarks that he must be feeling pretty confident since now's his only chance and asks if he's planning to run from the fight, but Yisu replies that he isn't because they still have to learn a lot about one another and that he'll now see what he's made of as Wang Hao rushes at him. He throws the glass shards at him, but Yisu knows it's a bluff and gets ready for the real attack, but Wang knocks the blade out of his hand, saying his grip's too weak before catching it and driving it towards Yisu, who stops the attack, saying it's rude to steal from others before deflecting the knife with his watch and slashes it across Wang's arm, who notes that he's changed his stance. As the fight continues, Wang jumps upward and tries landing a solid blow at Yisu's face but gets blocked and remarks that he's really making him lose his confidence by blocking this attack. Yisu then rushes forward and surprisingly dislodges Wang's foot, who angrily realizes what he was going for and falls inside the car. As Yisu steps forward to deliver another attack, he quickly shuts the door and spots a crowbar lying beside him. When Yisu opens the door, he sees that it's empty before Wang jumps down from the roof and hits him with the crowbar, which he blocks again, saying he's swinging anything he can get his hands on, but Wang says the important thing isn't the weapon but rather how you use it before breaking the blade in Yisu's hand. Meanwhile, Zealand angrily curses Cha while walking outside, while Cha helplessly wonders what she expects her to do in this situation before an old man slowly enters her room, introducing himself as the person who runs the mahjong rooms. Cha asks him what brings him here, saying she could have just come instead, but he replies that it's best to move around as much as one can in his age and that he came to check the place after hearing a commotion. Cha says they're fine at the moment and asks him to take a seat, which he does, asking where her aide has gone and left her all alone, so she answers that they had a minor conflict of opinions, hearing which he slowly repeats and confirms her words, saying she left because of that, before admitting he's not sure whether or not he should say something, but Cha tells him to speak freely, so he says he's been at Seonkwon for 15 years and until the time of Tianxing being made and the rise of the boss, Cha Yuhua. He's been on the sidelines watching it all transpire, which she answers she's heard of, as well as that he helped out a lot. He says if she should look for a person, it should be the retired Mr. Wang, since there isn't a reason to suspect his loyalty to the boss, but that's just his own personal opinion. But he'd say that there's nothing more dangerous than a sharp weapon left unchecked, holding out his fake hand and asks if such a weapon shouldn't be disposed of. Later, he calls someone and introduces himself as Gu Chang-hun from the mahjong rooms and says the situation is worse than expected and the untouchable has left her post as well, which is why it's quite concerning that Tianxing is losing its stability. But Tae-young tells him to cut the crap and asks if it was his doing, saying he might have helped him place the finger there, but he's the one who pulled the trigger and now he comes here playing a fool. He asks who the person is who'd told him that he wanted to preserve the peace of Tianxing, and also said that he needed reform, before asking if the job is easier since the untouchable has left her post. Chang-hun says those were Tae-young's words, not his, and asks who knew that the job would be this easy, saying Zealand has left her post and Cha Yunhwa is alone now, which is why today she'll die by Taesun's hands. Cha is thinking of the old man's words while calling Zealand and asks why she isn't picking up as she heads down the stairs. The other members ask where she's going with concern and what she'll do if the guys from Taesun come for her, but she ignores them and asks where Zealand, so one of them replies that she was going to rip the guys from Taesun apart, hearing which remarks that she's still doing whatever she wants and tells them all to get ready, saying they'll be heading to Taesun as well. As they're walking, she inwardly says the previous attack was too cowardly and underhanded to be the work of Taesun, since they wouldn't have revealed the One Sync project to begin with if they wanted to boldly attack them from the start, which is why their top priority right now is to stop Zealand, since attacking them right now will only complicate things. As they head outside, some guys wearing clothes over their faces approach her and ask where she's going, saying a grown-up girl like her shouldn't be wandering around at night, and if they should escort her. She asks if they'll be able to handle her, and they arrogantly answer that they will, before one of her guys angrily rushes forward, asking who they're running their mouth at, but someone from Tianxing clubs him on the head and addresses Cha, asking her to please step down because this is all for the sake of Tianxing, as the traitors and the other masked men surround her and the faithful members of Tianxing. Meanwhile, Wang knocks away half of the blade on Yisu's knife, saying it seemed like he really cared for it. He goes forward to attack Yisu, who dodges before Wang swaps the bar to the other hand and smashes it towards his head as Yisu realizes the style is Zealand's. Wang sees that he was able to block it with his shoulder and remarks that he's definitely above average in skill, so Yisu holds up the knife, saying he can take him on with even this. Wang starts laughing and repeats his words and says even though he acknowledges his skill, that's pretty damn cocky of him. He says he lacks objectivity and asks if he doesn't know about himself, transferring the bar back to his right hand. Yisu repeats what he said and agrees, saying there are times where he fails to understand and doesn't know about himself, and takes out a long dagger from behind and proposes something, saying he's going to start doing this his own way, so he better try his best to stay alive. Wang asks what he's babbling on about before barely dodging an attack and getting pushed back as he blocks one attack after another, admitting that his movements have become swifter and even sharper than before, and suddenly gets struck by getting kicked at his chin from Yisu's knee. He blocks another rapid attack, admitting he can't stop all his moves, which is why he'll let him get through. He pushes the club back, saying with this attack he'll, but suddenly gets cut off as Yisu finishes the sentence, asking if he'll end it before dislodging his balance with his shoulder and ankle and slamming him down hard. As Yisu's posing the knife over him, Wang alarmingly asks if he calls himself human, saying what he sees is only an evil spirit wearing the mask of a human. As Yisu's almost driven the dagger into his face, someone hurriedly calls for him, saying they want him there as soon as possible. It's completely messed up and has turned into a full-blown riot. Wang gets up in puzzlement, saying a riot doesn't make any sense and asking why Tianxing would ever riot. Meanwhile, as the members of Tianxing hurriedly fight the attackers, one of them tells Cha that she needs to get out of here right now and tells the others to clear a path for her to get out since it's the top priority. Cha looks in shock as they tell her to get out and urgently ask where Zealand is. Someone answers that they still haven't been able to contact her and walk her out as she notices the old man smiling on the rooftop as he apologizes to her, saying Tianxing will regain its stability with this. As Cha is miserably asking where Zealand is while holed up in a room, someone knocks from outside and she opens it to see Yisu, who says she can either face him and die or walk across this sea of blood with him, and tells her to decide. 10 years ago, someone asks why they brought them to an abandoned place